rifle that looks safest sitting on the workbench is usually the first one left behind when walking 5 miles through freezing brush. We convince ourselves that massive capacity equals absolute security. But that illusion shatters the minute your shoulders start burning. A true survival gun is not the one holding the most rounds. It is what you actually carry when you are tired, cold, hungry, and crossing a rusted fence line in the mud. If it is too heavy, it stays in the truck. But if it is too light, it might be too weak to solve a real problem. This is not another video reading off spec sheets. We are looking at the hard truth of the light rifle versus high-capacity trade-off. The easy answers fail when the weather turns bad. We must find where the practical balance lives, because a gun left at home cannot help you. Let's start with the platform that makes carrying capacity feel effortless, but hides a major trap. When we talk about carrying a lot of rounds without feeling the weight, the Ruger 1022 usually enters the conversation almost immediately. For over half a century, this rimfire classic has been the quiet king of the rural cabin and the farm truck. It was designed as a simple, reliable plinker and small game tool, and it does that job better than almost anything else. The engineering logic is undeniable. The blowback action is incredibly straightforward, the rotary magazine is brilliantly compact, and the whole package weighs next to nothing. You can drop a 1022 over your shoulder and walk the property line all day without it ever fighting you. That sounds good on paper, but paper does not kick back into your shoulder. The reality is that this rifle makes capacity feel entirely effortless. You can carry hundreds of rounds of 22 long rifle in a coat pocket, and dropping a 25-round extended magazine into the receiver gives you plenty of pulls on the trigger. If your only concern is walking far, handling small predators, or keeping noise down, this is a very logical choice. But this is where a lot of people confuse convenient with capable. The trap of the 1022 is overconfidence. Because it is so easy to carry, and because you have so much ammo, it is tempting to believe it is all you need for survival. That only means it has a limit. When a larger threat steps out of the brush, or you need to punch through a thick winter coat on a coyote at a distance, rimfire energy drops off fast. It is a fantastic tool for its intended role, but it is not a heavy lifter. A younger shooter may not care about this, but an older rural owner probably will, because you cannot negotiate with ballistics. Compared to the heavier centerfire rifles we will discuss later, the 1022 trades stopping power for walkability. The pros are obvious. It is incredibly light, the recoil is virtually non-existent, and ammunition is both cheap and easy to stockpile. The cons become apparent the moment conditions turn ugly. Rimfire ignition is inherently less reliable than centerfire, and the magazines can get finicky if dirt gets inside. A little grit from the tractor floorboards can cause feeding issues just when you need it most. You are relying on volume over authority, and sometimes you need to end a problem with one decisive shot. A standard woodstock Ruger 1022 carries an MSRP of around $389, with street prices often dipping closer to $300 flat. But what happens when you try to keep that lightweight frame and step up to a centerfire cartridge? Trying to solve the 22 caliber power problem without adding heavy steel brings a lot of folks straight to the KelTec SU-16. On the surface, this rifle looks like the ultimate answer to our light rifle versus high-capacity trade-off. Born from a desire to put 556 power into a backpack-friendly package, the SU-16 platform strips away almost everything that adds weight to a standard modern sporting rifle. It uses a long-stroke gas piston system, which generally runs very clean and features a receiver made entirely of high-impact polymer. You are getting centerfire ballistics and the ability to accept standard AR pattern magazines, all while keeping the weight hovering right around 5 pounds. That sounds like a miracle for an aging shoulder that cannot lug a heavy battle rifle across a muddy pasture. That is the easy answer, but it is not the whole answer. Yes, you get 30 rounds of 556 on tap, and you can carry it effortlessly through dense woods or stow it behind the seat of a single cab pickup. The SU-16 gives you the firepower that the rimfire lacked, and it solves the capacity question easily. The real issue is not whether it works once. It is whether it keeps working after years of being treated like a farm implement. As you try to make a centerfire rifle lighter and lighter, you have to sacrifice mass, and mass is what absorbs heat and abuse. The pencil-thin barrel on this rifle heats up incredibly fast under rapid fire. If you try to burn through that high-capacity magazine you brought along, the heat transfer makes the front end uncomfortable, and the overall polymer structure starts to flex in ways a traditional rifle simply does not. The polymer receiver and hinge points are strong, but they do not inspire the same confidence as solid metal when conditions drop below freezing and plastics become brittle. Before anyone calls this old-fashioned, look at what it actually solves. It bridges the gap between a walking gun and a fighting gun, making it a highly practical truck gun for sudden pest control. But for an older rural owner who is used to the unyielding solid feel of wood and forged steel, the SU-16 feels fragile. It lacks the brute force durability needed when a gun might get knocked against a tractor tire, dropped in the snow, or left bouncing in a UTV bed for 3 weeks. You gain immense portability, but you trade away structural ruggedness. The pros include its brilliant folding mechanism, its incredibly lightweight, and the fact that it shares magazines with the most common rifle in America. The cons are its rapid heat management issues, a trigger that feels somewhat mushy, and a general lack of structural rigidity that makes you hesitate to treat it rough. It is a fantastic concept for an emergency bag, but perhaps not a primary ranch tool. A standard KelTec SU-16 has an MSRP of roughly $750, though you can often find them on the shelf for around $650 depending on the exact model. But sometimes the best answer to a flimsy-feeling rifle is to embrace the exact opposite. Before we dive into the next option, I have to warn you. What we are about to look at completely wrecks the modern idea of a tactical loadout, but it survives out in the brush better than almost anything else we have talked about today, and it might just make you question your current setup. When a rifle lacks high capacity and is anything but lightweight, you have to ask why so many practical men still refuse to let it go. The SKS is where the entire light rifle versus high-capacity trade-off takes a hard turn. Originally designed as a Soviet infantry rifle in the dying days of World War II, this heavy mix of milled steel and thick wood was quickly overshadowed by more modern select-fire weapons. But over the decades, as surplus crates flooded into American hardware stores, it found a second life. It became the ultimate behind-the-seat truck gun for farmers, ranchers, and anyone who needed a rifle that simply refused to quit. Mechanically, the SKS is a masterpiece of rugged simplicity. It utilizes a short-stroke gas piston and a tilting bolt mechanism that can power through dirt, carbon, and neglect that would choke a tighter modern sporting rifle. It fires the punchy 7.62x39 cartridge, giving you excellent barrier penetration and brush-busting capability for medium game or hogs. But here is the problem for the modern tactical crowd. In its original configuration, it only holds 10 rounds in a fixed magazine loaded from stripper clips, and it is heavy, often tipping the scales well past 8.5 pounds loaded. That sounds right until reality hits. The spec sheet does not tell the whole story. While a younger shooter might laugh at a 10-round fixed magazine, a seasoned rural owner sees something else entirely. A fixed magazine cannot be lost in the tall grass. It does not get crushed by a work boot. There are no feed lips to bend out of shape during a bumpy ride in the tractor. 10 rounds of heavy 30 caliber ammunition is usually more than enough to solve any realistic problem on a rural property. It forces you to make your shots count rather than relying on spray and pray. You are trading modern capacity for absolute boring reliability. The real issue is not whether it works once, is whether it keeps working. You can leave an SKS in a damp barn, pull it out 6 months later, wipe the dust off the sights, and it will fire. When you are out mending fences in the freezing rain, you do not want to worry about your equipment failing. Compared to the lightweight polymer rifle we just looked at, the SKS feels like a crowbar. It is not something you want to carry for 20 miles if you have a bad back. But when you are holding it, you know it is not going to break. It gives you the confidence that a light rifle simply cannot match. The pros of the SKS are legendary durability, a potent cartridge that hits hard through light cover, and a sealed fixed magazine design that eliminates the most common point of failure in semi-automatic rifles. The cons are its significant weight, its slower reload time compared to modern detachable magazines, and a crude set of iron sights that are not friendly to aging eyes. It is also increasingly difficult to mount modern optics on it without permanently altering a piece of history, which means you are largely stuck with iron sights. Finding a clean SKS today is different than it was 20 years ago when they sat in barrels at the local shop, with current used market values ranging anywhere from $500 to $800. Depending on the country of origin and matching numbers. We have covered the heavy military surplus, but what if you need that ruggedness in a package that actually points naturally? Before we go higher, I want to know where you stand on this. Would you trust the older proven design? Or would you still take the newer platform if things got ugly? Up to this point, we have been talking about guns that make sense individually. But the next part is where the whole ranking changes, because now we are not talking about what works once. We are talking about what keeps working when the novelty wears off and daily life takes over. When you step away from the workbench and out onto the porch, The rifle you actually grab is the one that does not fight you. This brings us straight to the Marlin 336, a lever action that proves why low capacity still dominates rural America. Introduced back in 1948, this design has harvested more white-tailed deer and ridden in more dusty truck cabs than almost any modern platform you can name. It is not tactical. It does not look like it belongs in a combat zone. But that is exactly why it survives in the real world. Mechanically, the genius of the Marlin 336 is its solid top receiver and side ejection port. Unlike top-ejecting lever guns, the Marlin allows you to easily mount a low-power scope right over the bore. It holds about 6 rounds of .30-30 Winchester in its tubular magazine. Now, 6 rounds is undeniably low capacity by today's standards. A younger shooter might look at that and immediately dismiss it as obsolete. But this is where a lot of people confuse volume with effectiveness. The real issue is not how many rounds you have, but how the rifle handles when you actually need it. The Marlin is incredibly flat because there is no protruding magazine, no bulky pistol grip, and no tactical rail system. It carries perfectly in one hand right at the natural balance point. When you are walking through dense winter brush, climbing over a rusted barbed wire fence, or sliding the gun behind the bench seat of a pickup, that flat profile is worth its weight in gold. It slides out just as easily as it slides in, without snagging on seat covers or winter coats. The .30-30 cartridge delivers tremendous energy at practical woods ranges, hitting hard enough to cleanly drop a coyote, a feral hog, or a deer within 150 yards. That sounds right until reality hits, because that power comes with a cost. The rifle is not exceptionally light, usually weighing in around 7 pounds, but it feels lighter because the weight sits between your hands rather than hanging off the front. A rifle you carry beats a rifle you left behind, and the Marlin is a gun that naturally begs to be carried. However, the spec sheet does not tell the whole story, and the limitations are very real. Loading a tubular magazine is a slow, deliberate process. When your hands are numb from the freezing rain, shoving those blunt-nosed cartridges through the loading gate can become an incredibly frustrating chore. Furthermore, running the lever requires deliberate, forceful action. If you short-stroke it under stress, you will induce a jam that is much harder to clear than a simple malfunction on an AR pattern rifle. And while the recoil is manageable, a full-power .30-30 load pushing against a hard rubber butt pad can certainly test an older shoulder after a few shots. Compared to the heavy SKS, the Marlin points much faster and carries far more comfortably. Compared to the polymer KelTec, it offers a reassuring block of forged steel and solid walnut that you know will survive a drop in the mud. The pros of the Marlin 336 are its unmatched carrying comfort, its hard-hitting brush capability, and a proven, reliable mechanism that simply shrugs off daily farm abuse. The cons are its low capacity, the slow manual reloading process, and a lever action that demands physical effort to cycle reliably in a panic. Pricing for a brand new, Ruger-built Marlin 336 Classic has an MSRP of roughly $1,239, though older used models can often be found on the rack for anywhere between $700 and $900, depending on the condition of the bluing. But if 6 rounds is simply not enough for the unpredictable threats we face today, you eventually have to confront the most popular rifle in the country and the costly mistake people make when they finally buy one. After everything we have looked at, from rimfire convenience to heavy steel reliability to the classic lever gun, the final answer to the light rifle versus high-capacity trade-off brings us to the AR-15 lightweight carbine. For decades, this platform has been refined, tested, and pushed to its limits, becoming the most widely owned rifle in American history. It is the gold standard for a reason. Mechanically, a standard direct impingement AR-15 with aluminum receivers and a lightweight profile barrel offers an almost impossible balance. You get 30 rounds of .556, a cartridge that shoots flat and fast, in a package that can easily weigh under 6.5 pounds unloaded. The straight-line recoil impulse makes it incredibly easy to control, which is a massive benefit for older shoulders that are tired of getting beaten up by heavy hunting calibers. The ergonomics are simply unmatched. Every control is exactly where your hand naturally wants it to be. When you hear coyotes tearing into the livestock down in the lower pasture at 2 in the morning, a slick basic AR-15 is the most capable tool you can grab. It gives you the capacity to handle a pack of predators and the lightweight maneuverability to navigate in the dark. But here is the problem, and it is a costly mistake that almost everyone makes. The AR-15 is so modular and so easy to modify that it invites terrible decisions. People buy a brilliant 6-pound lightweight carbine because they want a practical survival tool. Then they log onto the internet and start bolting things to it. They add a heavy low-power variable optic, an offset red dot, a massive tactical flashlight, a bipod, a vertical foregrip, and a thick padded sling. By the time they are done, their supposedly light rifle weighs 11 pounds and handles like a cinder block. They completely destroy the very reason the rifle was useful in the first place. That sounds good on paper or on a tactical internet forum, but paper does not kick back into your shoulder, and a forum does not have to carry that heavy mess through a mile of thick mud. The real issue is not whether it works once. It is whether it keeps working without exhausting the person holding it. A younger shooter may not care about this, but an older rural owner probably will, because hauling an 11-pound tactical project across a fence line is exhausting. This is where the true light rifle versus high-capacity argument is finally settled. You do not have to choose between a lightweight gun and a high-capacity gun if you simply exercise some discipline. A lightweight AR-15 with a simple red dot sight, a basic sling, and maybe a small, reasonable light is the ultimate answer. Compared to the Ruger 1022, it brings actual centerfire authority to stop a threat. Compared to the KelTec SU-16, it offers forged aluminum rigidity that will not flex or warp when the barrel gets hot. Compared to the heavy SKS, it shaves off several pounds while tripling the capacity. And compared to the Marlin lever action, it offers immediate reloading and a weather-resistant finish that does not care about freezing rain. But you must respect its limitations. This is a machine that demands proper lubrication. While it is incredibly reliable, the direct impingement system does blow carbon directly back into the receiver. You cannot neglect it the way you might neglect a bolt action or an old SKS. It requires a disciplined maintenance routine, and you have to use quality magazines because a bad magazine will turn the best AR into a single shot very quickly. For a rural owner, the charging handle location can also feel awkward if you are used to traditional hunting rifles, requiring a bit of muscle memory to master under stress. The pros of a disciplined, lightweight AR-15 build are absolute supremacy in parts availability, extremely low recoil, standard high capacity, and weatherproof durability. The cons are its tendency to run dirty, the absolute necessity for good lubrication, the concussive blast of 5.56 out of shorter barrels, and the overwhelming temptation to ruin the gun with heavy, useless accessories. If you can resist that temptation, it is the finest practical tool you can own. A high-quality basic lightweight AR-15 from a reputable manufacturer like Smith & Wesson or BCM will typically carry an MSRP anywhere from $899 up to roughly $1,500, depending on the exact specifications and furniture. That price gives you a platform that solves the survival equation perfectly, provided you let it remain the light rifle it was born to be. We have looked at the trap of rimfire convenience, the promise of polymer, the heavy burden of old steel, and the comfort of a lever gun. The light rifle versus high-capacity debate always comes back to one truth. The gun that saves you is the one you actually carry when the weather turns miserable. A 30-round magazine means nothing if the rifle holding it is too heavy to drag out of the truck. We overcomplicate survival by looking for tactical answers to rural problems. Whether you trust an old 30-30 or a bare-bones AR-15, the rule remains the same. Keep it light enough to carry, simple enough to run under stress, and rugged enough to survive real work. Do not build a heavy rifle for a war zone if you just need a reliable tool for the ranch. So look at your setup right now. Is your primary rifle actually ready for a long walk in the mud? Or did you build something you secretly hope you never have to carry? If you're watching from the living room couch, pull out your phone, open up the YouTube app, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Stay safe, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next one. This is Gunforge signing off.